Good morning, my fellow artisans. Welcome back to part 2. Yesterday got short and a little bit because I was busy beavering away over here, and then the landlady turned up out of the blue and started doing loads of stuff, trying to do the inventory and things like that, and it just kind of threw me a bit. So I just decided to get out of there in the end, just get out of her way, let her get on, and then I'm coming back today just to finish off. Consumer unit is done, but I've got to label it all up and do a bit of testing, and then I've got the downlights in the kitchen to change, so I'm going to rip those out. I'm going to show you what was up in the ceiling. It's quite funny. And then I'm also going to check these lights that are not earthed, these metal lights. So I have no idea, to be honest, whether they're going to just be a case of connect an earth wire that's already there or no earth wire, and I'm going to have to figure that out. We'll see. And then upstairs I've got a pendant light to change. That's about it really. So hopefully this is just going to be 2-3 hours work and we'll be all good, but we'll see how I get on. Thanks to all my Patreon supporters out there. As if you don't know already, I've set up a Patreon page for those who want to join our monthly live Q&A session. So if you want to head over to there and have a look at that, there's a link in the description. And as always, thanks for watching. Hit a thumbs up and let's get into it. Right, so here we are. This is the consumer unit, which I did yesterday, and not a bad result. The only thing that was a little bit annoying in the end was I neatly dressed everything, and then I found out that basically this circuit and this circuit were like two rings, but half was on one and half was on the other, if you see what I mean. They were kind of like two rings that were interconnected, so they'd been wired up the wrong way round before, but actually nobody realised because they were both on the same RCD, so it didn't trip. But as soon as I turned this breaker on, then it tripped, and as soon as I turned that breaker on, it tripped, because basically the neutral from one was coming back down the other breaker. So actually we've got a ring there and a ring there now, but I've just kept them on 20 amp breakers anyway, because I just don't know if there's loads of spurs off them and stuff like that. And to be honest, there's 3 rings in a small house like this is plenty anyway. So cooker switch is now replaced. So I just wanted to show you this as well. This is so cool, right? These uni lights are amazing. That is a penny washer, and that is a magnet, right? And it's literally, the magnet on these is so strong that you can literally hang them off a penny washer. That's how strong it is. You can just put a screw in with a penny washer and hang the thing off that. It's absolutely brilliant. And they're so bright. These are the ones that have got 2 different light colours as well. They've got like cool white, warm white. It's the Cree one, which is, it's kind of designed for like detailers and stuff like that really, but it's cool. And it's got a UV light on it as well, which is pretty cool. Not quite sure what you would need to use that for as an electrician, but looks quite funky. Actually, UV is supposed to kill viruses apparently, so could be quite handy in this crisis. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, this is the cooker switch, which I've replaced because obviously it was completely cracked. So I've sorted that out, and now what I'm going to do is just replace these downlights. As you can see, they've wired them in flex and they've not wired them in properly, but this isn't the worst of them. I mean, that's not too bad, to be honest. That could sort of be repairable, but they're not fire rated anyway, which they should be really, as it's downstairs. So I'm just going to replace these with integrated JCC downlights, and I'm going to pull them all out the ceiling, swap them over. Should be quite a quick job. Right, well, as always, this isn't as simple as I thought it would be, because actually I've pulled all the wires down, but there are no junction boxes. I mean, this is the kind of bodgery that we're working with here, they've just put them in connector blocks, shove them up in the ceiling. So it's clearly a DIY job. I mean, they've used Wargos there, but same thing, live single insulated wires exposed. But there obviously used to be a central light in the ceiling, and I don't know if you can see that, but there's like a line here in the ceiling. It's hard to see, but basically this flex here has just literally been chased into the ceiling up to about this point somewhere. That one is kind of the same, and there are sort of these funny lines in the ceiling where basically it looks like they've chased in these cables into the ceiling. So presumably in the middle here there's a junction box where the old light was. Do I want to be chopping out the ceiling? No. And do I have a feeling that that junction box is going to have been badly done? Yes. What I think I will do, it's really difficult to know what to do, but I'm going to test these lights and see if there's an actual earth in the cable. If there is, then I think I'll just reuse the cabling that's there, not faff around with that junction box in the middle of the ceiling, and just do the new lights on these existing cables. But if there's no earth, then I'm going to have to probably chop out the ceiling and have a look for that junction box, which will be really annoying. Okay, so do you want the good news or the bad news? Good news is we've got an earth at the light fittings. Bad news is the polarity's wrong. So the blue is the live and the brown is the neutral. They've got the wires the wrong way around. So that's kind of annoying. And I never really know what to do about those kind of situations where you can't change it back at the origin. What do? You know, I mean, it doesn't actually matter in this case because the lights will work even if the polarity is the other way around, but it's not great. So do you then go and like re-identify all the various wires, or do you just leave it? It looks like there's actually probably 3 cables going to that junction box, because there's obviously one going to there and then to there, then there's one going to there and then to there, and then there's another one going to this. So actually I've got to test all 3 to make sure all of them have got earths. Why couldn't they just do it right in the first place? This is what really frustrates me. Do it once, do it properly, save yourself a lot of hassle and money in the long run. Right, so before I start messing around with those kitchen lights, I just decided, you know what, let me get my head around everything else that's going on, because if I think that this is all going to take more than half a day, then I need to make a plan. So I thought I'll take these light fittings off that are not earthed and just see what the problem is. Let me get my light in here. So this one's nice, easy. Can you see that? Earth wire is just not connected, so hopefully that should be a quick and easy fix. I've just got to test to make sure that there is continuity to that earth wire, but that should be easy. These ones, they've got earth wires in, and they all seem to be connected okay. I mean, these are pretty vintage kind of lights, but nothing wrong with that. Just the earths are connected, not sleeved obviously, or whatever, but that one in the middle is not earthed. And the trouble with these lights, you know, these little bobbly lights, is that you just know that as soon as you start taking this down, all these little glass bubbles are going to fall off, and it's going to be a nightmare to put it all back together. But I reckon that this light has kind of like all the connections behind it, probably for those wall lights. So if they're not earthed, probably it's a bad connection up at this light. And this is obviously a metal fitting which is not earthed either. So I'm guessing the problem's behind here. So unfortunately I have no choice but to just take this down and hope that all the glass bubbles don't fall everywhere. Let's give it a go. Right, so I've got it down. The bubbles haven't fallen off, which is good, but now you can see why it's not earthed. So these are the connectors, that's the earth wire. no earth at all there. Then it goes into this other set of connectors, which it looks like live and neutral are probably the wrong way around there as well, and again no earth. So up in the ceiling somewhere there's probably a bunch of connectors, so I think I'm going to have to try and pull that down and see what's up there and see if I can sort it all out. Okay, so now we know why there was no earth. So at first glance, obviously these connectors were tucked up in the ceiling, but at first glance it looks fairly good. You know, you've got a couple of earth wires there twisted together. That's a pretty solid connection when you twist wires together. But look closer, there's only 2 and there's 3 cables. And actually here there is a cut off earth wire. So that is probably the feed in. And then we've got permanent feed and neutral down to these wall lights, because they, I think, are just switched on and off with the they might be switched with the main light switch. Actually, I'll have to check that, but they do have these little push switches on, so they might just be permanently fed, but actually that might be that this is correct polarity, and that's 2 switch lines and just 1 neutral, which would, yeah, then that would make sense actually, because that is probably the feed down to these wall lights. It's a slightly larger cable, it's like a 1.5. So if I have a look here, I should see a 1.5 cable coming in, which, yeah, it's quite a large cable there. So that's it. So basically the switch line and neutral come from there down to here, but they've just cut off the earths in this light fitting. So I just need to strip that back basically and re-terminate the whole lot into that light fitting properly. And then that should solve the problem. So at least it's not too difficult to fix, which is good. And actually I can put these light fittings back because the connections on the wall are actually okay. It's just the connection in the ceiling which is dodgy, which is exactly what I expected, to be honest. So I'm glad it's worked out okay. Right, so I've just turned those back on briefly just to check to see whether it's actually switched or not. And those ones are not switched, they are just permanently live with just the switches on the light fittings. So that means the polarity in the ceiling light was actually wrong, which is a bit dodgy. So I'm going to have to sort that out as well. Now with a light like this, there's a funny thing here, which is that it's obviously like made in China or something, and they used black and white wires rather than brown and blue. So I don't know which I presume that the black is the neutral and the white is the live, but I'm going to need to check it because it's an Artisan screw fitting and we want to get the polarity right on this. So I'm going to unscrew the bulb and then, using my continuity tester, just go onto the center pin and then check these wires. Okay, so the white is the live and the black is the neutral. So it's what I thought, but it's good to actually just to confirm that, because you don't want to get the polarity wrong when it's an Artisan screw lamp, because the live pin should be at the bottom. It's designed like that for safety reasons, and then the neutral should be the connection on the side. So I'm just going to use 3-way Wargo connectors on these, the snap down ones, 221s I think they're called, and basically I can just put the Wargo connectors within the casing of the light fitting, so I don't need to push anything back up into the ceiling like they did before. That was unnecessary really. Just again, it's just a classic DIY thing. You know, this whole place is just screaming DIY, unfortunately, or handyman or something like that. Somebody who says, "Oh yeah, I'll put a few lights up for you," but they don't, have the finesse of a proper electrician who will will actually check things like, is it earthed, and are the connections done properly and stuff like that. It's unfortunate, really. So I've just marked the switch live with my cutters, so I know which one that is. So that's the switch line, and then I can just strip these back. These permanent lives can just all go together and in one connector block. I mean, I could change it so that those lights are actually switched on and off with the switch. That might make more sense, really, but no, I'll just leave it how it was, just to avoid any issues. It's not my house at the end of the day, so I don't really have the right to make changes like that, which are sort of a matter of personal preference rather than safety issues. This one is the cable down to the wall lights. It's actually an old stranded cable, whereas the other lighting cables are actually solid. So I don't know if that's like an old cable that they left in and then they've rewired the place since, or what, but so we'll get the old long wander lead now and just check basically to make sure we've got continuity of CPC now. All these light fittings should have, but need to double check it. Yeah. Great, so that's all good. So we can put them back together now. What a relief that that wasn't more difficult than expected. Alright, so these are all working now and all earthed, so that's good. Got a bulb blown in this one, but they're all working, that's working. So now I've just got to go upstairs and replace a dodgy pendant. I'll show you that. Basically this pendant here is kind of broken. So I'm going to take a look. If I can repair it, then I will, otherwise I'll just replace it. Right, well that was actually super easy. It was just a normal pendant and the pendant cover had just fallen off, but the bulb had blown as well and it needed cleaning. So rather than replacing it, I've just cleaned it all up, put the cover back on, put a new bulb in it, and that's all good as new now. By the way, while you're here, Jobby, basically the landlady yesterday said to me, oh, while you're here, can you just check this switch, because it's supposed to do up and down stairs, but it's not doing anything. Basically the switch is just knackered. All these switches I recommended as a C3 that they get them replaced, because they're all past their usable life and the contacts within them are really dodgy. You can just feel it, that they're kind of on their way out, you know. I mean, they're original, pretty old. So this one is knackered. They're all going to start going one by one, but if she wants to just pay a call-out charge every time to replace one, then that's fair enough. But yeah, we need to just basically replace this to a new 2-gang switch. So I'll just swap that over now, and then that's done. And just a little freebie for the landlady to keep her happy. Well, as always, it's never as straightforward as you think. I just thought I'll swap the switch over and that'll do the trick. No. Wiring is just weird and I can't figure it out, to be honest. Down here you've got permanent live coming in the bottom, linked across the 2 switches, and then what I presumed was 2 strappers on the top, one in L1, one in L2. Fine. So at the other end I should have the same, and then a switch line conductor going up to the light, which it looks like we've got, right? We've got that, presumably is the strapper cable that we've got at the other end, and then that is the switch line which goes up to the light there, which is correct, but it doesn't work. And actually those two that we think are the strappers, not the cable that we think it is. And then you've got all this weirdness, which looks like permanent live and neutral coming up here through the switch, going up in this 3-core, going up to that pendant. So it's been done really weirdly, and I just don't have time to be faffing around with this, so I'm just going to put it back together and leave it as it was. So I've just had to put that back together, which is a bit of a shame really, but it's unfortunate when you try and do someone a favour and then it ends up becoming a huge job. I mean, that wiring is just, I don't know what's going on with it, and it probably needs at least an hour of investigation, which I've not included. So, I mean, the lights work fine, it's just that you don't have two-way switching for up and down stairs, basically. Not the end of the world. But it should be able to work somehow, but it's just trying to figure it all out, and not on my priority list today, unfortunately. So everything's done now apart from these downlights, so I'm just going to jump on these. I'm going to have a coffee first though. I'm absolutely dying for a coffee. It's 5 to 10. Normally coffee time is 10 o'clock. Let me know in the comments what you guys do about coffee. What's your coffee break time? Do you have one? I didn't used to have one, to be honest. I was always rushing around, but I'm kind of forcing myself to stop for coffee these days, because I think it doesn't really do you any good to just run around like a madman all day without stopping for a break. So a little pause for thought and a coffee is always good. Alright, so we are just about there now. Finally got these lights in. They went in okay in the end. Just had to get some Wargo boxes for the connections, because unfortunately the 1.5mm flex that they'd been wired in wouldn't fit in the JCC push fit connections with ferrules on. So I had to do ferrules with the flex into a Wargo box, and then twin and earth from the Wargo box into the JCC lights, which was a bit annoying. Anyway, all done. Consumer unit all sorted. I did put a bonding clamp on that gas pipe as well. The water turned out to be plastic, so I don't actually need to do that. And I've also put, oh, don't forget that, new smoke alarms in, because they were due to be replaced in 2020. So I put new 10-year lithium Fire Angel ones in there, 10 quid from Screwfix. So that does the trick for 10 years, and no worries about you know, changing batteries and stuff. I've also labelled these isolators up, so that's all done. So I just got to put the cover on really, and then get out of here. So as always, if you enjoyed this video, hit a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. 64.2% of you are watching my videos and you're not subscribed, and that's not allowed. So hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified next time I post a new video. And in a little box to the left and right now, there should be on the screen 2 other videos that the amazing YouTube algorithm is recommending to you. Head over and watch those while you're here, why not? Have a lovely day and thanks for watching.